Thank you, everyone. Thank you so very much, and thank you, Mary, for the introduction and for inviting me here today. I am enjoying my time here, and those of you that met me at the airport and had lunch and dinner last night, thank you all for great hospitality. I see some of you in the audience, and Jim, I think I saw you out there. There you are. Thanks for the conversation this morning. Greatly appreciate it. You know, Mary talked about we coming into office together not too long ago, and we're both in our second term. And when we came into our leadership roles, we were at an NCSEA leaders meeting, and that was the largest class of presidents and executive directors that came in at that time. There were about 17 new presidents. And we were dubbed the Dumb Bunny group. Yes, we were. But I want to tell you, we did take offense of that because the majority of that class were women leaders, women presidents. And I want to tell you that we ain't no dumb bunnies. We may be cute, but we're not dumb bunnies because we have faced some of the challenges and the complexities that we never thought we were going to face in our term in leadership. So, you know, I'm from the East, Ohio, and you're out here in the West. So East and West is full of stress, and it's a double reaction. I'm not going to rest until I get your attention. We don't have anything to lose, so we must not rest. We gotta give it all that we got. Shoulder to shoulder. Talking is over. What do we got to lose? We gotta rally together and give it all we got. So I wanna say thank you, Al Jarreau, for those lyrics. And I want to say also in my presentation this morning, in my remarks, I've traveled over 2,000 miles, so I'm going to take my time and tell you about it. So just sit back, okay? I know you've seen the video. Thank you very much for showing that everywhere. I really do appreciate that. I really, really do. You know, and in our battle that we've gone through, I want you really to understand that all of our membership was engaged. We had the education support staff professionals engaged. We had teachers engaged, higher education, retirees, our students, and our group that works in the juvenile detention centers. We were all engaged in this battle. And so in my remarks, when I say it in Ohio, we say educators, and that includes our ESP, higher ed, retirees, and students. So in my remarks, when I say educators, I'm talking about all of us. And there are some places where I do necessarily have to say teachers because that situation was applicable to teachers, so I want you to understand that. And so I'm here to tell our We Are Ohio story, and I hope that you make the connections and connect the dots so that your takeaway is going to be some lessons learned that we learned in Ohio from Alabama and from Wisconsin and from North Carolina, because we're all going through this struggle. So with that, I'd like to say, Madam President, and to John, the Executive Director, and to all of you on behalf of the officers of the Ohio Education Association, the Executive Director, Larry Wicks, and the 124,000 members of the OEA, thank you for your warm invitation for coming here today and telling the We Are Ohio story and how it has affected us. So I am honored to be your guest speaker today. It's been a great year for being in Ohio. As our members and our leaders go to meetings at the NEA and in other states, we are welcomed with warmth and congratulations. We feel as if we have swept the Oscars. So I want to say thank you to our other NEA affiliates, because we had power, we had money, and again, thank you. And that money came from you. It came from you because you belong to the NEA. We had energy to overcome those that would destroy our union and our association. In 2011, we proved that we could fight back and take the lead away from the forces that would oppose our system of public education. We fought the struggle of our lives, as what Mary has said, all because we took for granted our pro-education leaders that we had elected in 2006. In 2010, Republicans blamed Democrat government leaders for job losses that were largely due to the recession and the collapse of Wall Street. But some Ohioans believed it, and they voted out our Democrat governor, Ted Strickland, who was John Inslee's roommate in college. So there's always an Ohio connection. They voted out our Secretary of State, Attorney General, State Treasurer, and key Democratic legislators. Pro-public education candidates lost control of the House of Representatives. We lost all of our goalies. The elected leaders who stood up for us and prevented bad policies from becoming law. We had clear warnings about Republican Governor John Kasich before he was elected governor. He worked for Lehman Brothers, the failed Wall Street firm. He worked as a commentator for Fox News. And he promised to break the back of the teachers' unions. After he beat our friend, Governor Ted Strickland, Governor Kasich warned all politicians and lobbyists that they better get on the bus or that they were going to be run over. He said he would never meet with the education unions until we took out a full-page ad of an apology in every major newspaper in Ohio. Well, he's still waiting. And we're still waiting for a truly constructive discussion with him. It has been terrible to face such a fierce opposition. There is less money for schools. OEA has lost about 5,000 members, despite everything President Obama has done to protect education jobs from 2009 to 2011. We wondered how we were ever going to fill our mission to lead the way for continuous improvement while advocating for the members and the learners we serve. We could not replace the billions of dollars from state funding that was lost in education. We could not replace the jobs that so many of our members are looking for. We could not replace or stop our opponents from spending more on for-profit charter schools, e-schools, and private school vouchers. But we did stop Senate Bill 5, which would have drastically curtailed the collective bargaining rights of more than 350,000 state, county, municipal, and education employees, including our 124,000 members. After the election of 2010, we felt bruised, we felt limp, and we definitely felt beat up. But just when it seemed to be hopeless, something happened. Just when the political attacks against our members felt like they were never going to end, something magical transpired. We found the strength to demonstrate against the tyranny and the attacks on the streets of Columbus, and I think you saw some of that in the video. Thousands of us. We were locked out of the State House, but together we found the warmth we needed to survive the cold of February and March outside. We carried that commitment and enthusiasm throughout the spring and the summer. We gathered more steam as we gathered more signatures on the petitions to overturn Senate Bill 5. We found new friends and allies, the firefighters, police, auto workers, steel workers, nurses, and highway workers. And we had our old loyal friends, you, in the Washington Education Association and every other state affiliated with the NEA. You provided the dollars for advertising, and your people walked beside us every weekend on the streets of the Ohio communities. We asked our friends to vote no on issue 2 to repeal Senate Bill 5. We told them that Senate Bill 5 was unfair, unsafe, and it hurt all of us. Unfair, unsafe, and hurt all of us. By the end of the campaign, we would convey that short and powerful message to everyone across the state. Every neighbor, every coworker, every family member, and every member of the voting public that we reached out and taught. We carried that message to places where we had never been before. And I want you to know that our members stepped out of their comfort zones. They went to neighborhoods that they didn't teach in, that they didn't drive the buses for, that they didn't prepare the meals for, and they stepped out. And it was uncomfortable for them. But when they saw the energy of the people, of the citizens behind them that were going to vote no, it gave them that strength. It gave them that confidence. So we carried that message. And the officers were out there every weekend beating the pavement and knocking on the doors, including our executive director. Our secretary treasurer, Jim Timlin, said that he canvassed so much that he felt like a tent. Our communities and Ohio voters supported us, and we grew stronger every day. We paid the price. Untold hours of campaigning, and the victory was sweet. On Tuesday, November the 8th of 2011, Ohio voters overwhelmingly rejected the political attacks against educators, nurses, and the safety forces. They voted no on issue 2, repealing Senate Bill 5. We met so many inspiring people on every journey that we took. On a bright Saturday, I went door to door with Ann Wyman, a teacher of the Columbus Public Schools. Her husband, Michael, served as the treasurer for the We Are Ohio campaign, our coalition to defeat issue 2. He's a disabled veteran, a police officer who took a bullet and paid the high price of service to the citizens of Columbus, but that didn't stop him. Ann and I walked the streets of Columbus, and Michael was with us in his wheelchair. He never stopped, and he worked behind the scenes with the coalition. Michael became one of our symbols of strength during this journey. I met laid-off workers in every part of the state and in every economic situation. I grew strength from the ministers and the members of their congregations because we even engaged the faith-based community. I began to realize that this was something Ohio historians would remember. The OEA family, as well as our friends from more than 20 other NEA affiliate organizations and thousands of Ohio allies, went door to door in Cleveland, Cincinnati, Dayton, Worcester, Youngstown, Lorain, Toledo, and Columbus. We put bipartisan politics aside. Silencing our voices would be wrong no matter which party proposed it. I put away my ego. And you know that's hard for a president to do. But I understood what was at stake, and as leaders, we understand the bigger picture to get our members to see up at the 30,000-foot level. Union leaders like me, we gave up the spotlight for members like you, the teachers, the ESPs, the nurses, the police, on the beat firefighters rushing to an emergency. You are our best messengers. Our opponents can try to question our motivation of union leaders, but they could never question the care and the commitment you have for your students, because you're in those communities. When the dust settled, we defeated Issue 2, the name of Senate Bill 5, on a ballot by 19% of the votes cast, an astounding victory. Just as we got on the ballot, we needed 231,000 petition signatures, and we turned in 1.3 million signatures. And I'm sure you saw on the video when we carried those boxes of petitions in, they actually had to go in to make sure that the floor of the Attorney General's office was strong enough for the weight of those boxes. They actually had to do that. We won all but 5 of the Ohio 88 counties. Our members voted by a margin of 9-1. We rejected Issue 2 not only in organized labor, but with strong majority of Republicans, independents, and Democrats alike. However, I told you that the sweet victory in Ohio is over. So unfortunately, the victory lap is over, and new struggles have emerged. Our opponents have launched some more attacks, as Mary talked about in her opening remarks to you as the PAC. They cut state education budget by $2.9 billion, with $400 million more cuts for public colleges. And Ohio law says that we cannot use the ballot to repeal the state budget. They proposed a quadrupling of private school vouchers, quadrupling. So we really kicked their butt. So now they got to come back at us. They cut back early voting days and restricted voter registration and tightened voter ID requirements. And by the way, we put that on the ballot for this November, and they repealed most of the voter suppression legislation. In Ohio, Republicans control the entire redistricting process, drawing legislative boundary lines that will guarantee them control for another 10 years, even though Ohio is a 50-50 state. So you all have heard Dennis Kucinich, right? Let me give you an example. Dennis and Marcy and Congresswoman Marcy Kapner, the way that they redrew the lines, they pitted them against each other. And before that, they clearly had different boundary, different constituents. So when they drew the lines, they put them against each other in the northwest part of Ohio. And we did some research on this. And we found out that their boundary lines was made up where no one lived. It was marshland that you couldn't walk across. There was a stop sign with a little road that ended. And they put them against each other. That's how they redrew the lines. In Columbus, Ohio, they put the Democrats in a small section of Franklin County and then redrew the lines for the Republicans around it. In Canton, it looks like probably Cape Cod, your elbow. There's a company there called Timken that gives very generously to Republican candidates. They carved that line out so that the company Timken would stay within the boundaries of the Republican lines so that they can continue to give to the Republican Party and to the Republican candidates. So that's how egregious these lines are. And we know every 10 years, who's ever in the majority gets to redraw the lines. But this gerrymandering is just so egregious that it will stay that way for 10 years if we don't do anything about it. So the OEA joined the Ohio League of Women Voters and other groups to fight back, to take the offense against these outrageous districts resigned under a single-party rule. We need another 381,256 signatures, valid signatures, to put the Voters First Amendment on the ballot for November 2012. And we only have until July the 4th to do so again. But we do know something, that we can do it, and we're committed to doing it. For without putting the voters first, a single party may be immune to the challenges and the other side. And this single party is clearly advancing an extremist, multi-state, spawned by the Heritage Foundation, ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, and Karl Rove's American Crossroads. Without Voters First, politicians will continue to choose voters they want. The voters will not have a genuine choice of electing the leaders they want to represent them. I cannot tell you how many times Ohio members wish they had worked harder to re-elect Ted Strickland. In early 2011, during the cold days of demonstrating outside of the State House, our polls indicated that thousands of OEA members had voters' remorse. After voting for John Kasich, voter remorse affected police, firefighters, state patrol officers also. Some educators didn't like the way that Governor Strickland signed a bill that would have taken away snow days, or what we call calamity days. Okay? In retrospect, that seems like a trivial concern. Yep. But I want to tell you that it's not that trivia now, because our members understand what they did. And I will not tell your job in Washington is going to be easy, but you must decide what is trivial and what is truly important. Today, we must all ask, where are we going to find the energy? How can we get our members to pay attention? And how can we win? First, I know Washington isn't Ohio, but in Ohio, I can tell you that President Obama stood shoulder to shoulder with us when Governor Kasich attempted to take away our voice, our collective bargaining, and our rights. Over the past 4 years, the president has worked to invest in public schools. He fought to save jobs of hundreds of thousands of educators all across the country and in Ohio. We need to elect President Obama because public education and collective bargaining rights are still under attack. And he is our goalie. We might be tempted to feel lukewarm about John Inslee, your endorsed candidate for governor. Jay. But yeah, they are. But I would urge you to think about whether Rob is a different kind of Republican or another partisan opposed to organized labor for public employee unions like ours. We were surprised, too, when Governor John Kasich was once more a moderate. The effort by partisan extremists will not stop in Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, Alabama, North Carolina, California, wherever we are. The casualties are mounting. Missing teacher jobs and ESP jobs, women's health care programs, voter rights. This is an all-out assault on collective bargaining rights, voter rights, women's rights, and civil rights. Dr. Martin Luther King saw collective bargaining rights as civil rights too. In 1961, he saw in the AFL-CIO convention, he said these special words: "Our needs in civil rights movement are identical to labor needs: decent wages, fair working condition, livable housing, old age security, health, welfare measures, conditions in which families can grow, have education for their children, and respect in the community." Will WEA fight back and win? Thank you. I believe you will. But it's going to take time. It's going to take patience, and it's going to take perseverance. Stephen Covey compares it to a bamboo tree, which looks like a tiny sprout popping out of a bulb. Underneath, it's growing with roots for 4 years. But in the 5th year, the bamboo can grow about 80 feet tall. Your roots are just as deep, whether you know it or not. Your roots run deep with your students, with your parents, and in your communities because they trust you. Citizens don't blame educators for the problems in public education. They blame the politicians for the shortchanging of our support system. Your roots are your values, rooted in the Washington Education Association. You have tremendous power and respect. Don't you ever forget that. You have our love and our trust in Ohio as well. I look forward in joining you, the members of the Washington Education Association, in the ongoing campaign to unite educators everywhere. Together, we can make a change in these challenging times to defend ourselves against the attacks, and that we can find strength and go on the offense. Together, we will pursue positive change centered around our students, for we are deeply committed to the success of every student and learner. So I want you to know that you must keep listening. You must keep learning. And most of all, you gotta keep leading. Thank you very much, WEA.
I don't wanna